You know that ache in your neck that won't go away? Or the shoulder tension that creeps in by mid-afternoon? Or if you're like me, maybe only 15, 20 minutes after you've sat down at your desk? Or the back pain that flares up if you sit too long or walk too far? Well, what if it's not just aging, but alignment? Now, in today's episode of Women's Health Unwrapped, we're diving into something most of us never think about until it becomes a problem: posture. I'm Nicola Fondell, and each week I help midlife women to strip back the noise around health and habits so they can feel clear, capable, and confident in their bodies again. And today I'm joined by chiropractor and posture specialist Dr. Brett Hill to explore why improving your posture can be one of the simplest but most powerful things you can do to support your energy, your sleep, your stress levels, your confidence, even your brain health through menopause and beyond. So let's get into this brilliant conversation with Brett. Hi Brett, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate being here. Thanks for having me, Nicola.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I think this is something that's going to be such an interesting conversation. It's one I'm personally invested in finding out more about. And I know because of my experience that there are for sure lots of women who this will be very relevant for. So before we dive into the topic we're going to discuss together, I'd just love to know from you a little bit about yourself in terms of your healthy habits and what you would say your most impactful habit is in your toolkit at the moment.
Sure. Well, health has always been something I've been passionate about, and not just like health. There's good and bad things in the health industry. One of the things that I find frustrating is there's too much. It's like, what should I be doing and what shouldn't I be doing? And I've always been into sports growing up, played whatever I could. And so I guess being active is a big thing. But in a busy world, and I've got 4 kids and a job, a business running, and it's hard to always have a set schedule of like, yeah, I'm going to go and work out at my perfect schedule here. It doesn't work out that way. So I'd say for me, the biggest thing for being healthy, maintaining health, is the simple little things that I try to do in my daily life. And it relates a little bit to how we develop this posture program we do with people, because I tried to think, okay, I don't have all this time. I'm busy with family and work and life stuff. How do we make these changes stick and last? And it was simple things. So it can be as simple as doing some balance while I brush my teeth, doing, my workouts are spread out throughout the day where I'll do, previously I'm just healing from a shoulder. I broke my shoulder blade. So I would try to do 100 push-ups in a day, but I would do it at 20 here, 20 there, 20 there, and get those in, but it makes a big difference. So I'd say picking little things and just being consistent in getting them throughout your day is the most impactful thing in like using your core and mobility in a healthy way like that.
Yeah, I love that. And that's totally the ethos that I use across my business and in the coaching I do with clients. And you touched on something that is just so relevant in this health and wellness space is the noise that's out there about how much there is, in the context of health, and that in itself confuses people, holds people back from making any changes because they just don't know what to do, and there's a perception that you have to do it all to have any positive impact or for it to be worth it. But as you are sharing, it's those, what I call those kind of micro moments in your day, those tiny actions that you take in those moments that together all add up. And if you aren't able to be the person that can put aside an hour 3 times a week to do a full workout somewhere like a gym, then how do you bring movement into your day and into your life in a way that works for you? And I guess one of the things with what you are sharing in terms of how you execute your habits is being able to remember and fit those in across the day when, we're not just saying do one thing, it's all of these little things. And so has that been a gradual process that now it just flows in your day to day?
I wish I could say, I wish I could say it just flowed in my day to day. It doesn't. I still have to work on it,
Right.
but I'm more aware. I'm more conscious. Like when I am not using the muscles that I need to, when I'm been working on a project or something, and I start to fatigue, it reminds me, okay, I need to get up and move, and I'll go do an exercise or something because it stimulates and activates me to move differently. So it's not. Unfortunately, it's not. I don't think it's ever easy, but it's easier. And I think how we do the small things, how we do the little things, relates to how we do everything in our lives. We were habitual people, and so, like you said, I mean, we have this mindset of wanting to do all at once, like, and we've been ingrained that way. We've been taught that way, like, oh, here's the pill that you're going to lose weight. Here's the nutritional supplement that's going to cure all your problems, and it's not that easy. We see that a lot with people with headaches, migraines, and things we treat a lot of in the clinic and through our program. People are used to, oh, I tried this medication and it worked for a bit, or okay, well, so that adjustment, is that gonna that helps, but it didn't last. Well, it's not the adjustment; it's about empowering you to then make changes to take care of that health on your own. And that's why, again, this posture program really relates to the neurology of what's going on in helping getting at the root of a lot of people's problems. And that's why we developed it, to give them results long lasting versus just temporary, this temporary fix of, oh, I worked out for that week, or I went hard on that program, but holiday happened and then we got busy and it fell off. So then we think, okay, I got to try something else or try something new. And it's easy to get caught in that model. And I think we all do. And what I find is we don't have to overthink it. It doesn't have to be too big, grand, but it's also not all at once results. But when we create the habits, we actually see lasting change, things that are going to change kind of who we are and our mindset. If we keep, it becomes easier to work on. It's never easy, but becomes more a part of who we are and what we do every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And I think I like your honesty as well, because we need to be honest to help other people know that this is just how it is, isn't it? This is life. This is how it's going to be. And as you say, so many people go all in and do something for a short amount of time that just isn't sustainable, and it doesn't fit with them, whether that's their personality, their values, their life, their time, their affordability sometimes to invest in that on an ongoing basis as well. And so I think that sets us up really nicely for this conversation, because as you sharing the way you work with clients to make these positive changes we're going to talk about, it is a process, and it's a process of small incremental changes in that mindset shift of knowing that it's going to compound and the value is going to come and materialize over time. So I think to start us off, it would be really good to just break down posture and what we mean when we talk about posture, because I think lots of us think of it just in terms of our upper body, like probably our neck and shoulders and that upper back part of, oh, I've got really bad posture, whether it's when you sit down or stand up. It's something I've definitely said about myself lots of time. But yeah, what does it really mean, and why does it really matter as well?
Thank you. That is a perfect question, because that's the number one thing people misunderstand and get wrong, is understanding what posture is and what it isn't. Most people think, oh yeah, my posture's bad. I got to sit up straighter, or yeah, I got to strengthen my back. That's not posture. That's building stronger muscles in our back, just like you would a bicep or any voluntary muscle group. What posture is really the foundation of supporting our body and our core system against gravity, and giving feedback to our brain of where our body is. When we have good posture, our brain is fired to sense have better balance, better awareness, and efficiency. It's always working without us consciously thinking about it. And it allows us to generate power off of that stability that we have with good posture. It also impacts how we see or feel about ourselves, or how others see or feel about us. If you think about when you look at someone who maybe is tired at the end of the day, or they had a lot of stress, and or someone is has anyone ever said to you, oh, you look stressed today, or what's wrong? How do they know that? Well, we present that in the way we hold our body positioning, our nonverbal communication. That's our postural tone. So posture is really related to that nervous system on a deeper level. And when that's out of balance, it wreaks havoc on our health in a lot of ways. It's not just sitting up straight, pulling the shoulders back. That's actually not helpful. That's not how we hold ourselves all the time. It's about getting awareness of these small muscles that need to be used all the time, whether we're sitting, bending over to pick something up, running, walking. We use posture in everything we do, unless we're sleeping, really.
That's so fascinating. And it is just totally misunderstood, because I would bet like the majority of people do just think of posture as in something that you should have a good posture of to avoid pain. And I think we only relate it to, oh, it's going to create pain or maybe lead to injury, which then results in pain. Whereas you're explaining there's this whole connection with the brain, and that ripples out into how we feel and what the nervous system is doing, and how that then obviously plays such a huge part in how we feel and our overall health. And it's really interesting because just before you and I had first connected, I'd been to an event locally, which was all about sustainable fashion. And it was, in the wider context of how fashion plays a role in our lives as women. And one of the guest speakers was very similar to you. She was a local chiropractor and really focused on posture, especially for women. And she was talking about just what you touched on there, how the way we carry ourselves massively impacts how we feel, as you said, the nervous system, but in our brain, and what that's being interpreted as in our confidence and happiness. And she was talking about that posture linked to then what clothes you buy and how you wear those clothes and how those clothes make you feel. And it's just really interesting that there's this whole link and connection between posture. There's so much. That is why I wanted to talk to you about it in regards to the women who listen to my podcast, who are usually somewhere midlife, often in perimenopause, or maybe already post-menopause. And that was something we talked about when we'd first chatted, of why posture is so important for women when they do reach that season of life.
That's awesome that they're talking about that, because and if I can just backtrack a little bit on how posture really develops. I'll summarize it really quickly because it can go in depth. There's actually a lot in the neurology of it, and this is what drew me into chiropractic and into what I do, as I try to get at the root of a lot of problems neurologically. It drew me to just our foundational system of the posture system. So when we're born, one of the first things we hopefully are given is tummy time. We learn to lift our head to look at the horizon. Well, developing that curve and that strength of our back is all about developing the posture system. And that's one of the first things we need to then crawl and then walk. And once we're walking, now gravity's acting on our spine constantly. It's always giving feedback to our brain as to where we are. And that helps fuel and build this neocortex, which is the frontal lobe areas and the higher center learning areas of our brain. So then we can start developing our problem solving, our reasoning, and our good, good thinking and skills there. As we get older, the more we sit, the more we have stressors and injuries and getting older in life, that impacts this neural connection to our posture system, our ability to resist gravity. And we go back into this more emotional reactionary brain, like a child or an infant who is still developing those higher centers of learning. And so we never look at someone who's elderly using a cane or a walker, or even just walking down the street that's hunched forward and think, man, they must be a healthy person. We can immediately correlate, oh, I don't want to be like that, because I'm probably going to be limited, or there's health issues there. Or that's not healthy. We can see it, but we don't take the action to really recognize, how do I prevent that from happening? And it's not just from sitting up straight. So connecting, and that's the hardest thing with fixing posture, is connecting our brain to that unconscious control that we naturally develop as a child, and then we slowly lose, because we are just telling our brain, when we sit most of the time and looking down at phones, and it's starting younger and younger with the youth nowadays, we're teaching our brain this is what our body should be doing. Whatever we tell it to do, or whatever we stimulate it with, that's going to become the normal. That's going to become the adapted norm. And we will forget where it should be, because we're not activating those anymore. And once it compensates, it's really hard to get it back, because we don't know what it should feel like or where it should be. And that's where we come in to really connect people to that. And so just like you mentioned, in looking better in fashion, and the clothes you would want to wear really impact by how you want to be presented. If you were to go on a stage, and present on something, or be a speaker for an event, you would think, okay, I want to look good. I'm going to be tall, and maybe take a deep breath, lift your chest high. So we go out there, we perform, and we put all that on. And then we go back into what our normal is. What if that was just our normal? What if these Instagram posts and these, when we go on stage and we want to present, what if that's who we are all the time? And we feel that confident, and we feel that energy all the time. And we can have that control when we are aware of our posture, when we can actually control that. Because most people are like, oh man, yeah, I didn't realize I was slouching so much. And they've been doing that for the last 5 hours. That really affects the energy, the foggy brain, and how we feel about ourselves. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that it can impact in terms of menopause symptoms. You just mentioned brain fog there. The confidence piece is obviously a huge thing that many women navigating perimenopause especially start to struggle with. And then now we're hearing about the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause, and how many women are experiencing muscle joint mobility issues. A lot of that can be back, shoulder, neck. Shoulders are a common one, isn't a frozen shoulder as a symptom of menopause. So I think you've got what's changing because of the shifts in estrogen and progesterone and testosterone as well, to a degree, and affecting our joints and muscles and so on, which I suppose if we've had a poor posture previously is going to perhaps exacerbate what the impact of that then is. But I think also other symptoms can themselves then impact the way you feel about yourself, and maybe then impact your posture because you are feeling less confident, maybe some mental health struggles. So I think there's two different ways I'm thinking about this, as how, posture could be relevant for someone in this menopause season of life.
And that's great. And one of the things that's really important, why I love what I do in working with clients, it's not just about, oh, they have a headache, let's focus on the tight muscles here, or whatever, the tension that they're feeling. There's multiple facets to it. Same thing with hormones and perimenopausal things. It's easy to focus on, okay, you're low in estrogen or progesterone or testosterone. Okay, we'll just give you this pill, or we'll patch that, and that should fix it all. Well, there's multifaceted things with that. Just like you mentioned, the musculo system and healing times and movement and our mental health. Getting counseling for mental health can be really helpful. But all of these things are actually really tied in to how the brain and nervous system take in information and then output it. That information comes from our visual system, hearing, our environment around us, but also internally about what our body's doing and how that's firing. And so all of that input, if it gets good input, it's going to have a better or good output. So when we chronically, and this is postures, one of the things that builds over time. And so especially when we hit that perimenopausal, menopausal state for females, that and actually, it affects males too. And we won't get into that, but um, those at that time, if we've had poor input through posture, lack of mobility, more anxiety, and the mental aspect, then we're going to have a poor output. And so all of those things, like I was saying, posture is kind of foundational to our health because it allows the nervous system to get a better input constantly, all the time, how we feel about ourselves. So it fires that area of our brain where when we're stressed, we feel it in our jaw, our shoulders, our neck. We hold that tension. Well, rather than just say, okay, I need to decrease my perception or deal with that through counseling, which is good, or medication or things, that can be great. What if we also thought, yeah, I'm going to change my physical control of this? That changes my perception of stress because it's like, oh, I can sense I'm stressed. I'm going to control that stress by changing my posture. And it actually fires a different area of our brain that we can then manage those situations better and that stress better. And so the same thing goes with, energy, with, hormonal changes. It can wreak havoc on the body. And so when our nervous system isn't already in a fight or flight or in this stress response because we aren't moving well, our postural tone has changed. And it goes into more depth. I won't get too nerdy, but when our head goes forward, our ear canals change and these muscles of our neck change in how they're perceiving our center of gravity, and the whole body will follow the head. So that's where we start with our program, is getting people aware of their head position, then activating their core and their shoulders and balance. But what happens is their head goes forward, their hips now compensate forward. So if your listeners are listening, I'll describe it, but if you're watching as well. So if I'm here, my head goes forward, I'm going to offset that so I can still look straight with the horizon. But now I've weakened my core and I haven't activated that. And so then what happens is we spread our feet a little wider, we collapse more into our flat feet, we turn our feet up more. Our body's just adapting to try to keep our balance more efficient. So if we focus on just strengthening our core or improving balance, it's going to help. But if we don't fix our head position and our actual postural tone, we're going to collapse right back into those natural positions our body has gone into. And one of the biggest health concerns and problems as we age is falls, lack of balance control. And that's one thing where, especially, bone density and things, again, hormonal changes that happen, these are big changes that affect our health, and especially females in osteoporosis and things like that. And so posture is a big aspect there because it really keeps awareness of our balance system and helps us keep that control and that nervous system firing in a healthy way so it can combat or adapt well to all those changes and all those things that it's going through. And that's all the things we address in our program, because it's not as simple as just, we've got to strengthen your back to stand up taller. It's not that simple.
And so it sounds like this is something that you are advocating for people to invest in for themselves. And I'm not just talking financial investment in your program here, but I mean, like, as in, take time to look at this as a healthy habit they can bring into their life and toolkit, not just something that you do as a response to pain or injury.
Exactly. It becomes a lifestyle. It becomes something we use and are aware of daily. Have you, I don't know, for yourself, after you've been working on the computer, I don't know how long maybe you work on the computer in a day, but how do you feel physically or mentally? Or do you ever feel like, oh, my hip flexors are tight or my hamstrings are always tight or anything like that?
So I'm that I'm a good case study for this, because I'm going to do my posture review with you. But I've got a standing desk. I'm sitting at the moment because I find when I'm standing to record a podcast, I end up leaning on the desk too much. But I made the mistake when I first got my standing desk of going from having sat down pretty much permanently Monday to Friday for long, long days since kind of the pandemic started, in this home office, and going from that to standing all day, every day. And within 2 weeks, my hips were in agony, my lower back was in agony. I started to have feet problems that have never been resolved. So I'm hoping we might be able to resolve some of this when I look at my posture with you. But yeah, so what I've tried to do over the last maybe year or so since I was having some physio treatment was alternate more often between standing and sitting. I do prefer to stand to work. But what I've been finding the last couple of months is within about 15 minutes of sitting down, I have severe kind of halfway between neck and shoulder area pain. And it's just so intense. And oh yeah, it's just all of those things, hip problems, back problems, shoulder, neck. And yeah, I can feel even now the level of the camera and the laptop. You are just slightly looking forward, and yeah, there's just so much in it, how we live now. For I think I would say most people, even if you're not in a desk type of job, that is encouraging you to have bad posture because of technology. That's the thing, I think, for lots of us, isn't it?
You're exactly right. And the reason I ask
Mm.
is because, that probably didn't happen just by after you've been sitting at a computer for a week or a month or anything like that. But yet the problem is the same problem. Sitting for long periods of time, technology use, it affects us. Now, it's not like, oh, I sat, so now I'm in pain.
Mm-hmm.
But it affects us on these small incremental changes. And again, it's the way our brain is adapting to think, oh, I don't need those muscles. So we collapse into the chair. And then we have these pain patterns that happen. So posture, if that was something that you had the awareness and you had the strength just foundationally, that would have been something where, again, you can fire and work and be aware of, oh, when I'm sitting, this is how I feel. I can correct this automatically because you know where it should be. Now, for you, it's like, okay, I need to, and this is 99.9% of people. They're like, all right, I'm tired of this neck tension. I'm tired of the back pain. Because in fact, they can actually live with pain. It's when, oh, I can't sit for more than 15 minutes now. And that
Mm-hmm.
pain's unbearable. So it's when that pain becomes something they can't live with anymore, or it affects their activities. Now it's like, I better do something about this. I better make a change. But that has already been progressing and deteriorating. And so that change needs to be something that's sustainable in our daily things that we do. And so posture is something where it is daily, it is everything that we're doing. And again, it's starting younger and younger, where we need to be aware of that, because I see these youth and they may not have pain because they're young. They might have some, oh yeah, a little tension, but they are crazy, like walking, looking down at their phones. And then they look up and it becomes this. And that becomes their normal, and they don't recognize. We can see it. I have 4 teenagers, and I'm like, guys, you got to sit up, like driving me nuts. And we can see it, but they don't recognize what that's doing. And so it's going to become even worse of a problem if we don't address it. But that's something where, if it's okay, Nicole, I'd love to give your listeners like simple things. We give out these videos. It's our first 3 things we give exercise wise for people in our program. They can go and get it for free just from yourpostureprogram.com/videos. But some of those are a little hard to see or follow just from listening to me here, because one of them's laying face down and you're lengthening and bringing the head back in a certain way. But some simple things they can just do today, things to just incorporate to improve posture and have that awareness. Driving. So anyone that's driving, I recommend sit back into the chair, sit your butt back as far as you can, where you can still comfortably feel the pedals, and then adjust the backrest so that you can sit up tall with your head, push your head into the headrest, and relax your shoulders. If that's a comfortable position, set the chair there and then adjust your mirrors in that position. Nice and tall with the head, with your head against the seat, the headrest, your shoulders relaxed. And that's one of the hard things people will have difficulty with, is they think of being tall and they lift their shoulders and everything. It's like, okay, you don't have to be completely collapsed with your head and shoulders or completely tall with everything tight. You can be tall with your spine and relax your shoulders. We're just using small muscles here, and feel them relax, feel your butt against the back. And then every time you start to slouch, you'll notice it when you go to check in your rear view or side mirrors. And it's just those little things. When then we can correct that, the more we activate our brain to be aware, oh, that's not where I should be. That's how we retrain it. Because if we think, oh, I've got to bring my head up and pull my shoulders back, we're going to use all these big mover muscles, conscious muscles, that are just going to fatigue after a short period of time. Like you mentioned, using a stand-up desk, it's going to get tired. You find you're just leaning on the desk because it's hard to know what are the small muscles that I should be using all day. And we have to build endurance into those because usually we overdo it using these bigger ones to compensate. And so that's where I tell people start. If they're sitting at a chair and they have a good seat, do the same thing in their office chair. Again, pulling their head back. You don't. I see this all the time where people will, and they can use a door or a wall to test themselves with this. I say, bring your hips, your shoulders, and your head against the chair or against a wall. Now, when you do that, to touch the wall with your head, are you tilting up? Is your nose pointing up and you're looking down at your nose? Or are you able to keep your ear and eye in a straight line? Because that's where our posture should be. Usually we've gone forward, so we bring our head back, so we start to tilt our chin up. These muscles at the base of our skull are really tight, and it's a compensation that we just now move that way as our normal. So these little changes, having awareness, can make a big difference. So that's the second thing I'd tell your listeners, anybody watching, is, if you don't work at a desk chair with a high back, or even if you do, it's good to go against a wall or a door frame and just put your butt, your shoulders, and your head against that wall. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders while you're still tall. So you want to pull your head up and then back so your eye and ear are level. And then balance. Balance is a great way to challenge that posture system. So just bring your hip and shoulder and head off the wall just an inch. Balance there for 10 seconds and then go back on the wall. And if you feel just your shoulders hit, that means as you were balancing, you probably compensated by bringing your head forward and your hips forward. And that's why your shoulders are hitting. And it kind of gives you that sensory awareness. It reminds your brain, oh, I'm off. I need to reset that. And that's, the more we have awareness, the more we feel it, the more the brain starts to connect of, oh, that's where I should be. That felt weird. All the time we'll give people an exercise or we'll align them up. And I'm like, this probably feels weird. It probably feels like you're sticking your butt out behind you, or you're like tucking your chin so far back. And they're like, yeah, it does. I'm like, you're actually perfectly aligned. They're like, no way. I'm like, yeah, it's because your normal is so off that this feels very awkward and weird for you.
They're great tips. And it's fantastic. You talked about the brain in different ways, but all linking to just the huge role that the brain plays in new habit formation. That's what we're talking about here, as well as creating these habits of awareness in how you stand, how you move, how you sit, and so on, so that you can train your brain to make that the normal way of doing those different movements and so on. And that's how habits are formed. We're programming the brain. And yeah, I think what I would just ask for any final tips on is, I guess, where we started the conversation with your habits is, how does someone remember? The driving one was a great one, that while you are in that position, the mirrors are the indicator of whether or not you're still in the right position posturally. But how do we take that into our everyday life? Any tips on, checking in with ourselves to keep giving the brain the message that, no, we want to be in this position, not that position?
Yeah. And it's really tough when we're talking posture, because unless we have sensory feedback or someone directing us, our posture is just wherever we think it should be. And a lot of times we just don't have that perception. So that's where I say use a wall or check yourself every now and then. I would say, to once you know where it should be or what it should kind of feel like to get in the right position, that's helpful, because then, like for myself, I'm balancing right now. I balance a lot, just working at my standing desk, just because it activates those postural muscles and it just keeps them firing. So it's a simple thing. Sometimes I'll talk with people or I'll watch my kids' sports and I'll just stand by the bleachers and just balance a little bit to work my core, get my postural muscles firing.
What do you mean, Brett, when you say balancing? Are you on one leg?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
on one
So
leg? Oh,
I'm
well,
literally on one leg. So as I'm talking to you, I'm literally
you've
just
got very
standing
good
like this.
balance. Right.
And I just stand on one leg, and it's something where I use it all the time. And one of the tests and challenges we give patients is to do it with their eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that as a test, and most people are like, "Whoa, I can't do that," but that really connects your brain to the body. But just balancing where if you look and try to get your ankle, your knee, your hip, shoulder, and then you can't see my hair, but all aligned. But that's a good way to fire that simply throughout your day. Now, at first, people are going to struggle with that. They might feel a little unstable, or they might fatigue really quickly, or whatnot. But once you feel it lining up, once you feel those postural muscles working properly, it becomes really easy. It becomes
Mm-hmm.
something that you're not working hard to do, and that's why balance is a great test of or an indication of where your posture system is. Because when, like I said earlier, as the head goes forward, now the hips compensate, your feet splare out because balance is getting worse. So it's trying to be more efficient. So when we challenge that system, if you're really struggling to just balance, and like for me, standing here balancing is pretty easy. If you see someone and they're like this the whole time, shaking back and forth, it's an indication it's weak in that posture system. And now it can relate to, other injuries to knee and other things. But firing that and getting aware of that can really help build efficiency and strength. So that's a simple thing I would challenge people to do throughout their day. Those that we see in clinic, or we take them through the program online, I always say, okay, don't stop doing these. Now, do these 5 minutes a day, pick one or two. Now, this is when they're done our program. Pick one or two of those exercises and do them, because it becomes more, it should be automatic by that time when they're going to the gym, working out, running, lifting up their kids, whatever it is, that they're using those muscles and just aware of them. But I say just do one a day. And so those that work at a desk, I tell them every hour, stand up and do balance, or do one of the exercises we do as a rainbow exercise. It combines balance and other things, or like 5 squats. But again, we teach them how to do a squat properly with their postural muscles. So, but those things, just regularly moving and then checking where the head, the shoulders, and your core, your belly button is. That that is really beneficial. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as just do this and that's your check and you're good. Those are hopefully some helpful things that people can start doing. The biggest thing is awareness. People might think they're using their postural muscles, and they aren't aware. So if they're sitting at a desk, I say, have a friend come when you don't know, and have them take a picture of you. You might be surprised. Wow, I didn't realize I was like this all day. Like, I thought it was actually decent posture when I sat. So it gives an awareness, immediate feedback, where the brain can say, oh, it's not where I thought I was. We need to change that. And that's one of the first things we do in this program. We assess people. We do, and we can assess them virtually from anywhere in the world. So and we're going to do this with you, but you send us a picture, upload it to the app. We're going to put some dots on it, and seeing where you are and how that might relate to issues that you're dealing with, or just health wise. It's pretty cool. And people all the time say, wow, I didn't realize like I was that far off, or I didn't realize my head was tilted that much. And their spouse will tell them, or a friend, and they're like, I've been told that, but I thought I corrected it. It's because that's normal for them. And so getting that feedback, seeing where they're at, is the first step to being able to know they need to be corrected.
All really, really good tips. They're very powerful. And one of the things that I see and hear about a lot is in the exercise and movement space, how many people, this is not women specific, but I know in terms of people I know who are female, they also experience injury a lot if they are working out. And quite often, we go through that very traditional route of just trying to see a physio, or maybe a chiropractor, osteopath for the thing that's the problem. But they're often not trained and operating in the way you do to look at the root cause, and that can be something else. And posture, I've heard, is something, especially with people who run or lift weights, that can be the thing that's leading to the injury. And so it's really important. It's something I've become much more aware of. And like I say, met a few people like yourself, and or heard of people like yourself as well who are taking this more holistic approach. So I think it's something that's just, I think, so refreshing and definitely very valuable. Usually to wrap up, Brett, I ask for 3 simple steps. You've given a lot of steps, so I'm going to see whether I've understood these correctly, because you've given lots of value.
Yeah.
I think awareness is the first thing, self-awareness. And this is really not surprising to me. And if you're a regular listener, hopefully you're realizing there's a pattern here. It doesn't matter what topic we've talked about. So many of the guests talk about self-awareness as one of those first steps you can take to implement the change that they're sharing and talking about. So it's that awareness, some ways to check your posture, looking at that and so on. So you've given different ways to do that with photographs, standing against the wall and so on, the chair. And then it's using some of your free resources. Everything I'll pop into the show notes. You've got those free videos you talked about, gave some example exercises on here. So maybe picking 1 or 2 of those, as you said you would do if a client was in the program with you, to begin trying out. And then the third step, I would say, is back to what we've shared about habits and your own habits, Brett, is finding ways to bring those into your day. So maybe, setting the car up is one thing. Maybe it's some reminders in your phone or calendar or a habit tracker, just different ways to start to do this and think about where you can stack those new little movements into your lifestyle. I've been personally trying the balance while brushing my teeth, if standing on one leg. And it's so funny because I literally did this a couple of days ago, or tried, with my eyes closed. And it is impossible to stand on one leg with your eyes closed brushing your teeth. So yeah, I think that, does that sound like a good kind of 3-step process for someone to take? Yeah.
Those are great. I wouldn't say impossible. I do it. I challenge myself. It's hard. It's very hard.
It's a good
but you'll
challenge.
get there.
Yeah.
It is. It's tough, but that's awesome. I would say definitely those are great. It can be simple. It can be those simple things. 5 minutes a day of doing these. I would just say one more tip, like you said, in kind of making it a habit, would be setting up things, especially those that work at a computer, whether it be, okay, every time I go and check my email, I'm just going to force myself to balance for 30 seconds, or setting a timer for every 50 minutes. Get up and do 10 seconds or 30 seconds of something, whether it be a squat, whether it be balancing, whether it be, just taking a deep breath, raising your arms up, relaxing your shoulders, coming back down 3 times. It can be as simple as that. And if they do that every 45 minutes to an hour, it really makes a big difference over time. And those are good habits to just start with. But yeah, so I just add that to the thing you mentioned with the habits.
Yeah, brilliant. And where can someone find out more about you and the program if they do want to look further into getting this support with your team?
Yeah, I mean, always reach out. Most businesses, most people are all over Instagram and Facebook or TikTok or whatever. I'm terrible with social media. I don't really use social media, but if they want to get a hold of me, go to yourpostureprogram.com. And the best place is yourpostureprogram.com/videos, because just start there. 5 minutes a day, starting with those exercises, and you can connect with us after that or through there if you want, or strictly from the website. We'd love to answer any questions or concerns you have, but just start doing something. Our goal is to just help people get to the root of their health and empower themselves to take care of that. And this is honestly so impactful. It's so impactful, like you mentioned, those working out. We see that all the time. It's not a matter of how fit you think you are, because we see injuries of these big guys, body lifters. And I'm like, yeah, it's because you don't even know what your posture muscles feel like. So you're not stabilizing those when you're doing a weighted squat or deadlift or have plantar fasciitis as a runner. It relates to this, and it's really important to get at the root of the problem.
Yeah, and I know so many midlife women are struggling with frequent injuries who work out because of what is changing when you've dropped in estrogen, especially, and how we can become much more inflamed without knowing it throughout our body. Our joints, muscles aren't the same as what they were, and yeah, women are just so much more prone to injury. So I think, yeah, this is something that can and should be so beneficial. And when you mentioned and gave the example visually of how older people might be hunched over or walking with a stick or a frame or something like that. If anyone's experienced this in their family with parents or maybe grandparents, you know what it means to lose your mobility, and that's just something I think we all want to try and avoid. So certainly for me, it's very top of priority to work on this and my overall, posture, mobility, strength, because I don't want to end up like that, because I saw that with my own mother, and I saw what those very damaging ripples are when you don't have full mobility and you are in pain as well. It just is really debilitating physically and mentally. So yeah, I'm a total advocate for this. So by the time this episode comes out, I'll have had my review, and hopefully I can share a bit more on my social media
Awesome.
about the impact and so on. Yeah, thanks so much, Brett. I really appreciate your time and sharing this insight. I know it's going to be really valuable. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for having me. I love it. I get excited about sharing this stuff.
Yeah.
So reach out with any other questions you or your listeners have. More than happy to help anybody. It's so important. And the earlier you start, the better you're going to be in your health long term. So good on you. Thanks again for having me. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you. If you've been feeling like pain, tension, or stiffness is just something you have to put up with, I hope this conversation with Dr. Brett has given you a new lens. Posture isn't just about how you stand, it's about how you move through your day, how you support your body to have the energy you want, to sleep well, to have clarity, strong decision making, even your joy. I really hope that you take some of the simple tips Brett shared to build habits to improve your posture and overall health. So give it a go, and as always, do let our guest and myself know what you've taken away from the episode. Now, if you're ready to take a closer look at your health in this season of life, I'd love to invite you to take my free midlife reset quiz. It takes just a couple of minutes, and it's going to help you pinpoint what's really going on behind the fatigue, the pain, or the sense that you're just not yourself right now. It will offer simple, doable steps to help you move forward. And as you've just heard in this conversation, I'm all about those simple steps and building habits that become a part of real life for you. You'll find the link to the quiz in the show notes. Now, if this episode resonated, please pass it on to another woman in your world who could use some extra support right now. And what really helps to support more women to get the podcast in their ears, or maybe in their eyes if they're watching us on YouTube, is for you to subscribe to Women's Health Unwrapped wherever you're listening or watching, and to give it a rating. It takes just a couple of minutes, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do that so that we can grow the podcast and support more women like you to live healthier, happier, and for much longer with their health as well. Thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.